What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Maria and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today I wanted to talk about comparison not being your enemy, you being your own enemy. And that sounds harsh, but I promise you, the more I think about it, the more I realize I think there's a truth to this, okay? I feel like most people want to be confident, most people want to be successful, most of us want to be healed. We want to be the best versions of ourselves, but you have to realize that confident people do not compare themselves to other successful people. They only do that so as to learn from that person, not to criticize that person. Because most of us will criticize the other person for doing the exact thing or for being in the same position that we wish we were in. How does that make sense? And most of us will see someone doing better than us and we will automatically go into protection mode. We will go into jealousy and envy and shame, just like this deep shame, which will put us into this spiral of, oh my gosh, I'm not doing good, I'm not doing better, I'm not meeting this goal, I am 20 whatever and my life is ending and I have nothing. Okay, on paper you don't have nothing, so what are you gonna do to get there? Instead of comparing yourself and being jealous of someone else who has put in the work, because you do not know where they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, putting in the work that you see now, right? So instead of comparing yourself, what can you do instead of being stuck in this loop? Again, change the pattern today or the loop will repeat tomorrow. Change the pattern today or the loop will repeat tomorrow. Most people will criticize themselves and go into the shell of self-judgment, of self-destruction. But you have to learn that you'll never be at the same level as someone else simply because you are not that person. We're not meant to be clones of each other, right? We're meant to be different in our own ways. Yes, you can let people inspire you. Yes, you can let people speak life into you, show you how they did it, but you will never be exactly that person. You will never have their exact success. And once you realize that okay, I can be successful in my own lane to my own vision that God has given me, there is a freedom to that. There's a freedom in knowing, okay, I want to be a content creator like that person. I want to do all these things like those people, but I will never be that person and I will never have their success and I will never have their gifts. Therefore, I need to crack the code that works for me specifically, for my temperament, for my personality, for where I want to be in life, right? So instead of criticizing someone else, instead of comparing yourself to someone else, and going into this self-destruction, self-blaming, just feeling this imposter syndrome, instead of doing that, I wish most of us sat down and were like, okay, what habits do I need to change? Because again, change the pattern today or the loop will repeat tomorrow. You want to lose 10 pounds? Amazing. What are you doing right now to lose 10 pounds? You want to be financially independent, but your spending is off the charts. I mean, I'm talking to myself here, if I'm going to be honest. You want to be financially independent, but your spending right now is off the charts. So we need to fix that, right? And I promise you, if most of us thought about the fact that if our lives depended on it, we would do it. You hear me? We would do it. If someone came to you and was like, I am going to give you $1,000,000 if for the next year and a half, you run 10 miles a day. Because you want to be financially independent and because you want that $1,000,000, you are going to get up every single day and run those 10 miles. Why? Because the habits need to change. Your habits need to change if you want any sort of success. And I got this mindset from Layla. I'm gonna link her channel down below. She's so good at explaining the correlation between our mindset and our habits and our success. So your habits are gonna shape your success down along the line, because that is just how we're wired. Your habits, your daily habits, will affect you 10 years from now. The little things that you're doing to make sure you're financially independent 10 years from now, to make sure you're healthy 10 years from now, will 10 years from now, you will thank yourself for that. And I don't think most of us realize that that same mindset has to carry on into other areas of our lives. So comparison is also a habit. And the thing about habits, you have to unlearn that habit because you're so wired. It's almost like I heard this one podcast. This dude was basically saying that most of us grew up thinking we're shy and introverted. Why? Because we believe that every single day. I'm shy, I cannot talk to people, I'm introverted. Therefore, I'm gonna avoid any sort of interaction. Therefore, I'm not gonna have friends. This is just my life. I'm just lonely and alone. Like, you fed yourself that mindset for years. Which means as an adult, now that it's not serving you anymore and you're lonely, you don't have people, you don't have connections, you don't have friends, you don't have immediate community, you are gonna have to learn how to change that pattern. And as someone who works in mental health, I promise you, when someone is struggling with let's say, depression, one of the key things that we're gonna need you to change is your community. you're gonna have to get out there and seek community. It is the hardest thing to do, obviously, because your brain is telling you otherwise, that you don't need people and that you're a burden and that you suck and that no one wants to be around someone who sucks. That is your brain protecting you. Okay, just like jealousy and envy are self-protectors, because we are meant to feel good about ourselves, and we gossip about other people because we want to feel good about ourselves. When you're depressed or when you're going through the hardest time of your life, just like community wise and mentally and emotionally, your brain is meant to protect you so that you're not harming yourself again. Okay, so it's gonna tell you and convince you don't need people. You need to be by yourself. And every single person knows that is not the case, actually. You have to do the hard thing and seek out community. In addition to therapy, in addition to medication, you have to go out and make sure you have a purpose and a calling you're pursuing. And 9 times out of 10, that usually has to do with other people. Okay? So it's the same thing of like, I'm shy, I'm introverted. No, you have fed yourself that belief. So we have to unlearn that habit and that belief system, which means we're going to have to create new habits. We're going to have to create new systems of thinking. It's the same thing. If I want to be successful, I'm going to have to learn a whole different habit. I'm going to have to change my spending. I'm going to have to change my, the way I eat. If I'm eating out every single day, I'm going to have to cook at home. Physical health, I'm going to have to start working out. I'm going to have to start sleeping 8 hours a night. I'm going to have to start journaling and meditating and like taking care of my spiritual health. I'm going to have to start doing all these things. Comparison is not the enemy. You are, because you are your enemy. You are the enemy to yourself 10 years from now, because your habits right now are not shaping who you want to be 10 years from now. So instead of wallowing and being like, oh my gosh, that person is successful, that person, their body looks great, that person is financially independent, I am going to learn from them and I am going to watch their habits. I promise you, their habits and mindset are different from yours. I mean, hopefully they're not like vain and just like self-obsessed. Hopefully they are people who are cognizant of the fact that they have had to work their butts off to be where they are. Therefore, everything in their life had to change, right? Same thing with people. If you're around people, again, I learned this from Layla. If you're around people who are not helping you get where you want to be, financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the Bible says that we cannot be yoked to people who are unequally yoked to us. Just like we're not supposed to be in unequally yoked relationships, it's the same thing with friendships. You hear me? You can be around people who, like, they're down here and you want to be up here, but because they're down here, they're constantly pulling you down with them, and that affects your mindset. That affects everything. I remember when I recognized that I don't want to live in fear anymore. I want to do and live life freely. I want to travel. I want to do all these like amazing things with my life. But at the time when I had that realization, every time I spoke something out loud that I want to do, that I believe in, I was criticized by the people around me, and I love them to death. But most of them were my family. They were like, "No, don't do that. Oh my gosh, are you crazy? Don't do that. How could you go out of the country by yourself?" And it's like, I am not living in fear. I don't want to live my life in fear. You can do that for yourself, but that's not the story I want to have, right? And the greatest decision I had to make is I had to learn how to disappoint people. You're gonna have to learn how to disappoint people, right? Because if you are people pleasing to the detriment of your own success as a person, to the detriment of yourself, that is suicide. You're like essentially killing who you want to be in the future for the comfort of someone else. And it's like, no, you're gonna have to learn how to disappoint the people you love to carry out the vision that the Lord has given you. That's just facts. I feel like all of us have to get to that point in our lives where you're just like, I'm gonna leave you all behind so that I can get to the place that I see myself being. Because sometimes you're constantly being dragged down by the people you love, and it's like, I love you all to death, but you're really dragging me down with you. We're not supposed to live in fear. I know people who are afraid of everything. Cannot travel by themselves, cannot make this phone call, cannot pursue that thing that they really, really, really want. People will be stuck in jobs for years that they don't like. But it's like, I am afraid to change my systems and my mindset and my habits out of comfort. And then you look back at, I don't want to be 60 years old and look back in my 20s and say, I wish I did that. I wish I did that, but I did not because I was afraid of people, because I was afraid of what people are going to think of me, what people are going to say. I was afraid of the financial burden, all these things. And it's like, if you believe in God, you have to bet on God. Like, if the Lord has given you a vision, you have to bet on Him so hard that literally things work out in your life and you're like, I don't know how that happened, only God does. But I promise you, I followed His will and I was obedient, because the vision God has given you is not too big for Him, it's too big for you. So, which means your faith is going to have to match that vision. Is your faith big enough for that vision? Because you sitting in your apartment and wallowing and comparing yourself to this person who has enough faith to know that God is going to provide for the vision that He has given to them, that person is like 10 steps ahead of you. Which brings me back to my point. Comparison is not your enemy. You are your enemy. You are your enemy. So you're going to have to get into that Bible. You're going to have to get into that prayer. You're going to have to go like really seek the Lord and ask Him, what is going on? I need to discern how I need to get better at this, because your mindset, I'm telling you, your mind, our minds will convince us of things that are not there. And you're going to have to fight against your mind and your reality sometimes. Stop being your own enemy. Pursue the thing the Lord has given you to pursue. Pursue the vision that you have. Bet on God 100%. And I'm only saying that because I was there like 4 years ago. I've always had this, always had this like 4 visions in my head of the things I want to do. But all those 4 visions have one root. They all start with one thing, and that is content creation. And creating content, like, I was like, what? Like, I don't have the capacity. Like, I don't have the personality. I don't have the technology. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know nothing about it. But once I started, I was like, okay, I'm not ready, right? Just start. And most successful people will tell you, just start. Stop waiting, because there is no such thing as perfect timing, especially in our human doing, right? God has perfect timing, but we don't. So you have to just start. And I had to bet on God, but I also had to bet on myself, and realizing, okay, the gifts He has given me cannot go to waste like this. Like, other people's dreams and visions and healing is connected to my yes to God. Just like the people I watch every day on YouTube, their yes to the calling God had on their life has changed my life. So it's like, what are you sitting on? Why are you sitting on the gifts God has given you? Get up. Stop wallowing. Be better. Change your habits. Change your systems. Pray. Seek the Lord. Discern. Go to church. Like, do the things you need to do to be a better version of you, so that the person and the version of you 10 years from now, 15 years from now will thank you for it. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.